All right, Widows Brigade, a really moving story. And now let me introduce my guests here in studio with me. On my immediate left, Jessica Kiplagat, and beside her, Dora Nandege. And then also at the end is Dr. Susan Gitau. She, in fact, is a counsellor and has been, giving her efforts and services to returning KDF soldiers and families since 2012. Ladies, pleasure to have you with us, and thank you so much for being here on NTV. Dora and Jessica, first and foremost, our sincere condolences for your loss. It's unimaginable, but you were so brave to share your stories with us on NTV last night, and we are very, very thankful to have you with us here in studio. Last night, if you did get an opportunity to watch this program, all of the women that featured in Widows Brigade really opened up and shared their stories, including you, Jessica and Dora. But I'll just start with Susan. The fact, Susan, that these two ladies are with us here in studio is very telling in itself, because what they have experienced is heartbreak that no one other than someone who's walked in their shoes can really imagine. What do you have to say about just the fact that they're here, being a counsellor?
Well, I would like to say for Jessica and Dora, they have walked this journey, because there are majority of them who wouldn't actually be bold enough to come and share their stories. My experience with the few that I have supported is that they actually go through not normal grief as people do go through, but theirs become complicated. Most of their cases, apart from losing their loved ones during the war, they experience a lot of stress from the in-laws and other relatives who are thinking maybe they have been left for a lot of money. So it doesn't just become normal for them to grieve, and especially those who have children. It's not easy, because as a widow, you have your own grief moment, and the children are also asking you questions. And you realize in our African culture, we have different ways of telling our children that your dad is no more. And for their case, you realize majority of them were servicemen. When I talk about servicemen, they were very young. You hear of 26, 27 and all that. So you're talking of very young marriages, people who are just trying to bond with each other, and then all of a sudden that relationship is cut off. What does that mean for them? It means they have challenges forming intimate relationships. What about the servicemen? Majority of them come from very humble backgrounds. So you realize the widows, they have children, they have been left with children, and the families of the fallen heroes, they also need the share of the money. And sometimes there is no mediator. In fact, right now I would call, if there is more support coming on board, there should be professional mediation, because there are some cases that are genuine. You realize maybe the parents are old or they're very poor, but the widow also needs this money for the children. And majority of them probably were not even working. What also follows them is that if you are living in the camp, you have a specific period of time that you're required to be there, and then you leave. And that's the only home you knew about. Yeah. So you're also being separated from the physical environment that you're aware of. There is a lot, and unstructured way of intervention. If there was a structured way, I had some little chat with Jessica here, and she told me she started a support group. More reason why she's strong this way, where they can go and just share, what are you going through right now? Yeah. What is happening in your life? And I guess probably that's why they are the way they are. Right. But you may find some widows in the remote areas, like the experience we had in Bungoma or in the deep of Kirinyaga. You find really people don't even want to come near you, not because they don't want to support you, they don't know what to tell you.
Right, and we'll come to that in just a moment, but let me bring you ladies in now. For some of our viewers who perhaps missed the program that aired last night, Dora, if you may, could you tell us a little bit about your story? I know that it's not easy and this is very sensitive, but introduce your late husband to us. Tell us a little bit about your marriage, your relationship, just for the sake of people who perhaps didn't get to watch.
Okay, my name's Dora Nandege. I'm a wife to the late Corporal Patrick Matayo Konani. He was deployed in 9 Care, and he fell off when he was at Elade. Yeah, he has been a good husband, if I may say that. I miss him all the moment I think about him. Every time I just think about him and all the best time that we were together. So it has been so touching. It has been touching my heart most of the time because we were a young couple. Yeah, because you know when you're married for like 7 years, you are still young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what made me even become very bitter is that he went there the first time in 2011 when the war had just begun. A moment we could not even talk on phone, like we could take 2 weeks without communication. You get his missed call and you are done. You just tell God, I thank you because at least I've seen a missed call. I'm sure he's there, even if I've not received the call. But now, this recent time, when he went there, we were communicating every day. Like the last time we talked at 11, almost 11:30 p.m., only to wake up and you find that the mobile subscriber is no longer there. Yeah, so it was very tough. Yeah,
Can
it
only
was.
imagine, Dora. And Jessica, what about you? You know, tell us a little bit about your marriage and relationship.
Okay, my name is Jessica Kiplagat, wife to the late Major Sami Chemwena Murel. I met my husband in 2003, so we got married in 2005. We were blessed with one son. In 2007, he's now 10 years old. And what I would say is, for the 12 years I knew my husband, I think he's the best thing that ever happened to me. It was love at first sight because at that time I was only 18 and he was 20 years and he had only joined the service. So, so my husband died in July 2015. My husband was a pilot. Initially, he had been deployed in 66 Artillery in Gilgil. That was between 2003 to 2006, where then he was posted to 50 Air Cavalry Battalion. So he joined the helicopter training school from 2006 to 2009. So when he graduated as a pilot. So the last time I spoke to my husband was on 5th of July 2015. My husband had gone for surveillance along the border, Kenya-Somalia border. So he'd just come back from Somalia, so he landed in Bargoni. So I think the weather wasn't good at that time, so they landed. So after it was around 6 p.m. So they went to the officers' mess and they were just chatting with friends and having tea. So after some time, they were asked to go and reposition the helicopter. So there were 2 helicopters. So the first helicopter landed safely. But from what I hear from his friends, his helicopter started burning while up there. So it came down, crashing.
So sorry to both of you. But
so it was very tragic because he burned beyond recognition.
my heartfelt condolences once again. But you women are indeed so very, very strong to share your story. Susan, let me bring you into this, because this is not easy for these strong women who have, you know, had such wonderful marriages, though young, as you say. What is it that you could say, for example, to women who have gone through something like this? I mean, for many people, as you say, they are lost for words because they simply don't know or don't understand really what it's like to go through what they've been through.
And before probably I do that, I would like to respond to this reaction that Jessica has just shown. It tells you it was not just a loss of a husband, it's not normal death. So it was a tragic, you know, event. That means she does not only suffer from loss and grief, but she develops post-traumatic stress disorder. When she mentions that her husband's body was burnt beyond recognition, that was never in her life imagination world that I could one day find my husband in such a condition. Yeah. And it's important that they first acknowledge what is happening through them, what is happening within. Because in post-traumatic stress disorder, you will find that the whole event is horrifying. It is scaring you. I want to imagine it wasn't even easy for you to be told to come and identify your husband. You realize that they would want to avoid anything that relates to that story. They would also have re-experiencing of dreams, nightmares, and all that. Just like that was July 2015. And now she has talked about it as if it's happening right now. And this is what I would like to say, is that the support for these widows is actually a must, because some of them may not be aware. And what needs to happen is the reconstruction of the thoughts. For example, when they lose their loved ones at that tender age, there's so many questions. What happens from here? I am young. You know, probably he had even bid for you a house in their village. What happens? You're a young person. How will my in-laws treat me? How will the society also treat me? Because majority of people just think soldiers go to war to die. No. Like for the Kenyan soldiers, I want to tell you, they have not gone to Somalia to die. They have gone there to defend our country. Yeah. Unlike the Al-Shabaab, who are fighting because they have promises they have been made for. So at all costs, we need to think about the Kenya Defense Forces families. There is one of the majors within the KDF based in KMA, the Kenya Military Academy. She's Esther Kahiri. She has actually done a study on the impact of war in Somalia on the military families. And I think that is a study whose results needs to be followed and implemented. I am grateful because I have been pushing in my own small way as a professional counselor that they have professional counseling units within the military, and 2 of them already have. We have one in 12th Engineers Battalion in Thika, and one big one that we officially opened with Major General Wino in KMA. And my prayer is that they cannot move all the way from Kahawa to go to Nakuru. Right. There should be another one in every military base, so that they can always knock at the door of the counselors. And if they don't have enough counselors within the military, it has never been wrong to outsource. For me, I gave my services because the first time I was called to help the first returning group of soldiers in 12th Engineers Battalion, I actually got another insight that I never had before. Right. That this is not about the soldier going to war. It's the son, the daughter going to war. Of course, it's the wife going to war. It's the whole family who thinks about them, who prepares them. Because when you are prepared about some eventualities, you are better off in handling the same.
And let me ask Dora and Jessica, you know, were you prepared in any way mentally and emotionally about what may happen to your husband? I mean, obviously you can never fully prepare, but were you in any way told of the possible consequences, Dora?
Yeah, they always told us. You know, he could tell me that when we go front, they call it front. Yes. Yeah. When we go in front, anything can happen any minute. So we just thank God. It's your duty to pray for us. Just keep on praying. Yeah. But I'm telling you, when somebody says, it is well, when somebody tells you it's well, when you're in that shoe, it's until you are the one who will know, who will take heart. You know, it's very heartbreaking. Yeah, but we were, at one point you become prepared that when I make a call and he doesn't call back, maybe something has happened. But you tell God, no. Until now, there are at times that I don't believe that he's gone. You can't believe because the state of the bodies, you can't. Now, viewing nobody, you know, sometimes we view nobody, nothing.
Nothing can prepare you as much as you try and prepare yourself somehow. Is that right, Jessica?
I would say that all wives who the uniformed, I think we know the eventualities that come with it. But I would never say that there's that time that you're just prepared that your husband will die. There's no way you will say I was prepared for his death.
Of course.
It's so unfortunate that they just die. You always expect that, you know, he will come back.
And you live in
You are
hope,
always
of course.
optimistic.
Yes.
But I would say the psychological torture that comes with it, sitting there every time knowing that the sad news will come to you, is the worst. Because anytime an attack happens in Somalia, the first thing you know, you call. Find your husband is Mteja.
Are you there?
When you just find his Mteja, you just know that you just expect bad news. And I would say also it's also very sad the way people out there take it, because whenever an attack happens like that, there are some who get to know this news earlier than us.
Yeah.
So we'd find them the stories in social media. Like for myself, how I came to know my husband had died was not that the KDF came to my house to tell me. Actually, that day he died, I was coming from work, and then my phone went off, so I was off air. So when I arrived in the house at around 8, when I switched on the phone, one of his colleagues texted me on Facebook, "It's a dark evening for all of us." Another one texted me as well on Facebook, that when was the last time you spoke to your husband?
Yeah.
It's like he's been involved in a plane crash. So I just connected the two messages and I knew that he was no more. So it's so tragic how people take out death. They take it so lightly that whenever they just even know that somebody is dead, they are all over in social media.
Yeah.
So you get to know on Facebook that your
Right.
husband is no more.
And really, Susan, that is one of the worst ways that one can ever be informed about the loss of their loved one. And you don't even know whether to believe it or not, almost, because there's all sorts of things on social media. What needs to be done to take care of that element? Because that really is so sensitive.
Well, I know, of course, the other day Churchill was dead, was declared dead by a blog.
Right.
But I really feel it, especially for the Kenya Defence Forces, been with them now from 2012. I also am not comfortable. I think Kenyans, we need to learn. When you post a picture of that blown off body, that is somebody's son, that is somebody's husband. What are you doing? You're actually inflicting more pain on them. I guess people should learn. I know some of them do it out of probably, some it's malice, Let us not politicize when it comes to our brothers and sisters in uniform. Because what they go through, I want to tell you, I don't see any other family going through what their families go through.
Right.
And like you hear Jessica saying, it was not KDF, because they have a way of breaking news. And I'm also saying that when it comes to psychological issues, if they don't have experts, let them outsource. And there's so many volunteers out here waiting to support them because they put their lives on the line for us. Because the way the news are broken, it is actually should be in what we call sensitive desensitization.
Yeah.
You just do it in a manner that you go getting, where have I gotten her? Because you do not want them to black out. You do not want them to faint, because the minute somebody faints, what happens, it's just another psychological problem that has been built on that. Because it means there is a memory that has been lost. And the beauty of these two beautiful ladies is that they can talk about it even here on air.
Yeah.
And what I know is that it is not easy, especially to go and identify a body that doesn't even, most of them don't even believe that they are burying that person.
Right.
So you can imagine how long it takes. And even with the DNA results, you keep saying, could they have been cooked, Could that have been? And some of them keep waiting. But I want to tell Jessica and Dora and all the other KDF widows, I know the KDF is very sensitive. By the time they come and give you results, they're very sure. There was a family that there was such a mistake, and when they realized that was not the body, they actually had to stop the funeral. And she's still waiting for the husband to come back one day. So there are stages. The denial is there for everybody, including even the normal families that lose a loved one through death. You go through that stage of denial, there can be shock. You might go to bargaining, like you're saying, probably he wasn't in that plane. Probably they gave me the wrong information. You keep bargaining, but you get to a level that you're like, I guess it's true. And that is when you start crying. And the minute you start crying, it's like you're sort of accepting, it could be true now. This is true. I no longer see him. I no longer see him coming back to the home. The kids are asking for him, and now I know I can't tell them he will come. And when you accept, like for Jessica, I want to say you have gotten to that level, although somebody keeps going back and forth. You even start supporting others, using your own experiences to support them. Having a support group, that is awesome. And I want to say this to the KDF management, whoever is concerned with the welfare of the KDF families. They need actually to follow up such support groups and find out.
I want to ask Dora, I mean, what sort of support, if any, you know, did you receive or are you receiving from the KDF since the loss of your husband?
Okay, the only thing they did, it was taking care of the burial expenditures. They took him home and buried him. Then they paid us the gratuity, and they are insured. Yeah, so when you die in war or you get an accident, you are compensated. At least that we were given, and we are yet to be paid the other money for the African Union. So we don't know how long it will take, but we were told we are yet to be paid. But now, when we are given this money, you have a father-in-law there. Some have father-in-law and mother-in-law. We have sisters and brother-in-laws, family at large. You know, I was surprised because instead of people mourning together with us, people are just thinking about money. They say that, you know, the husband has died, and you know, KDF has money. So she should give us some money, even when you don't have. Suppose you're given 5 shillings today. I have Jessica here, I have to give her 3 bob. I have to give Suzanne 1 shilling. I remain with 1. Now, is that enough? So people should leave this culture of thinking that KDF is everything. They are human beings like others. Yeah, so even if somebody wants to support you, they just think that, no, we can't support them because KDF have money. Unless you are the wife of a soldier. Yeah, you know, some people earn even more than them. But we can't expose it like we are suffering. We just keep cool. Yeah, so, and that is the only thing they did.
So whilst they gave you some financial support, which you say is never enough because there's so many interested parties, but beyond the finances, was there any other kind of support in terms of counseling, for example, or any emotional support?
Now, like in my case, it took me like 1 month before I found my husband. So the thing they did was counseling us. I can say they have good counselors, because we are going to Memorial every day for counseling sessions. So they identify some counselors who take us through the process every day. And it was very good because it made us strong. That's why we are strong until now. Because if it were not for that, you are looking for somebody who is nowhere. The only thing you can do is to be counseled. Yeah, at least that. They have a good group. I can give thumbs up for them.
Well, that really is good to hear, because that is very important, and we'll speak more about the importance with you, Susan. And Jessica, in your case, you know, from some of the other ladies who appeared on the show, they also shared stories about, almost horror stories one could think, about the way families of spouses, you know, look at this as a money-making venture to an extent. That may be harsh to say, but that's the kind of impression that one gets when you hear that, you know, father-in-laws are just saying, where are you going with money? He was my son. What's your view and experience on that?
For my case, I would say that when my husband died, I mean, the KDF actually took care of everything, burial expenses and everything. But I think after that, anything to do with counseling, I've never been counseled.
Really?
My son has never been cancelled because I remember when we went to pick his body from memorial. My husband had lost his head, arms, legs. So, and then now they had to reconstruct the body to just, to be able to just dress him up.
Right.
So his head, they had just put a helmet in his head to just act as a head. So when we were viewing the body at the morgue, my son asked me, kwa nini daddy amevalishwa helmet? So from there, you don't even know what to tell him. And then now when he was being removed from the morgue to the ambulance, my son asked me, kwani daddy anapelekwa wapi? And then on our way home, around almost Nakuru, my son just came to me and told me, daddy amekufa. So the psychological torture that comes with it is just immense. But I have never received any support. I've just been trying to get over it on my own. But I thank God because I'm one very strong woman, and by sharing it, I've been sharing with my fellow widows. I came up with a support group. And when you are in that support group and everybody shares their experiences, you know that you are not alone in this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it helps us in that healing process.
Right.
Because when you see the Elade victims, it was more or less like my husband's
Right.
death. So the Elade will share with you their stories, you will share. So it's very, very, it's a very nice thing to have that support group. And I am very happy that it has gone this far. And obviously I'm hoping maybe it becomes bigger in future. Another worst experience is in-laws. I'm telling you, some in-laws are just the worst enemies. I'm telling you when it comes to cash, because I remember. I mean, even when my husband died, they are quick to just assume you've killed your husband.
God.
So whenever your husband dies in Somalia, and the in-laws are there telling you that you killed him so that you get money. I actually remember even during the burial, I was chased from the burial.
Really?
Yes. But at least the KDF soldiers just told them, no, Jessica is his wife and she has to stay. So I buried my husband the same day and went back to my family.
Susan, I mean, this issue of the in-laws has shocked so many people. You know, like I said, we heard one of the other widows speaking and it sounded like a horror story, and here you are. Two ladies, again, sharing it. You know, we're hearing it directly, that it's something very difficult. As it is, these women are first and foremost dealing with the loss of their spouse, their loved ones. And then you've got the added stress of the in-laws. I mean, break this down to us.
Yeah, and it's all in the name of money anywhere. And I guess this is whereby a lot of education also needs to be given to the families. And I think people also need to know legally, if there is this husband who dies, if the wife is alive, immediately she's the one who has the right.
Yeah.
And if the wife is not there and the children are there, you have the right. But if you didn't have a family, then as a father or a mother is when you can try to come in. So I think there is a lot that is missing in terms of who owns what and who has the right to what. And they also forget, like in Jessica's case, there is that son.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like to see that son grow and grow to a level that they can be reminded of their own son. So I think this is where I'm saying, let the Kenya Defense Forces not live also in denial. Because some of these things we are able to do when we are given a chance. Like in Kirinyaga, we went there, it wasn't easy. With one of the officers' ladies who has also started an organization, she is married to a serviceman. And when he went to Somalia to serve, she lived the way they were saying. You're always expecting anything. Yeah. You can't even work properly. And she started Heroes Oasis NGO. And what she is doing, she's actually going around the country, getting the data for these widows and bringing them together. And we are supporting her as a counseling family. because she is not a counselor, she doesn't have counselors. And we're also trying to equip people like Jessica with basic loss and grief skills, basic psychological trauma debriefing. Because at the end of the day, if the father-in-law, the mother-in-law do not want to support her, as a nation, we cannot watch this happen. Yeah. And we go there and tell them the truth. And I thank God because Immaculate, the chief executive of the Heroes Oasis NGO, she is married to the servicemen and she understands a lot about what happens within the military. And this Esther Kahiri at Kenya Military Academy, who is also a counselor. And we tell them, let's go and tell them the facts. This is what you have a right to. You don't have a right to this. And why I'm talking about professional mediation, the other day I took that course because I realized not everything works in counseling. You need to be a mediator. Like in Jessica's case, I don't think Jessica would even have, like Dora has said, I need to give Susan one bob. I don't think they are mean. They know this was the father to their husband. Right. But the way it is done, it's like they shouldn't even get anything. I think that's too, it's so inhuman. It shouldn't happen and they need to be told the truth. Such that it's not the father-in-law running in the corridors of KDF offices looking for the money for their son. It is actually the wife, and what the family needs to do is to work together.
So are you saying, Susan, that these sort of rights of the widows who have lost their husbands, but are you saying these rights are not sort of, are they written out? Are they obvious rights? Because as women, they may know, it's my right, he was my husband, but other people, like the in-laws, may say, well, actually, he was my son. So
yes, I brought him up, I took him to school, I'm the one who paid.
As much as I may ask the ladies, did you know your rights? You know, what are their rights? Is it legal? Is it written down, set in stone? Or
in the Constitution, that is there.
It is there.
What we need to understand more is that from the structure, I think even the Kenya Defence Forces structure, but we need not compromise anything that touches on the widows, because I guess not everybody is clean when it comes to the inheritance, and that is what needs to come clean. It should come clean even during the time they are being passed out as servicemen, as cadets. Because the families are there during the graduation. Some of these things, just get somebody saying 5 minutes, this is what happens. And even though the family needs to have a share, some of the families, like the one in Baringo, I found a very sensitive case there. You look at the family, they're very poor. And of course, the widow was saying, once I get this share, I don't think I would like to see my in-laws suffer if I have the money. But she is the one who has the money and she's the one to share it. At the end of the day, you will feel if there is that professional mediation, a very healthy way, there is no way you can have more than the widow who has small kids who have to go all the way to university and enjoy the fruits of their father who actually died in the line of duty. For sure, families need to wake up.
And it really is heartbreaking and upsetting that when it comes to the loss of somebody's life, the issue of money, you know, almost takes over. It becomes such a big deal. Now, Jessica, you mentioned earlier that, you know, you have never received professional counseling. Of course, different people opt to deal with grief in different ways, but is there a particular reason as to why you didn't sort out counseling?
What I would say that my experience, and I'm sure the experience of other widows is more or less the same, because whenever your husband dies, everybody lives in denial. You just want to be on your own, you don't want people, you're not out there anymore. So I think it's by choice, and as well it's because counseling service is very expensive. You cannot afford to be paying everything else and then again pay for counseling services, and that is one of the requests that I would want to request probably the government. If we can have, if all widows who lose their husbands in one front can be able to access these counseling services for free. We can have counseling centers all around. But then I think with KDF and others, whenever they just bury your husband, that's the end of your relationship with
Yeah,
them.
they move on.
That's it.
Right.
They will promise you heaven when they come for the burial. Don't worry, we'll support you, we'll walk with you this journey. Whenever your husband is down there, they've left. That's the end of your relationship with the KDF.
Right.
Maybe
And
if I can support.
yeah, sure, Dora. Tell us about your views.
Yeah, you know, this counseling, I believe we were cancelled because it was a nationwide thing, because we were many.
In your
So
case.
instead of us crowding there at Memorial, they decided to cancel us. But suppose your husband has died. Like yesterday, I saw the red, their vehicles. They were coming from a burial. I'm sure once you die, you are put in a morgue. Then your family will come to view and plan for the burial, and they come, they bury. The thing they can do is just to make sure he's down. When he's down, they go. Now, this is what they do after that. They even take away the gate pass from us.
Really?
So we cannot enter that camp again. Unless you are there and you know me, you can book for me, then I enter. But they tell us, widows have been giving us the experiences, because you have a child who is sick. They gave us, if your husband had not registered in a medical scheme, you are here or is registered, but you don't know where to access those services. You are still learning. It's a process that you have to go through. You are in the village.
Yeah.
You don't know where even Nairobi is.
Yeah.
So when they want to go to that camp, they are told your services are no longer.
Yes.
You don't have to access this. Then we are just wondering that surely if these people were serving for like 5 years, suppose they are there, they should still assume that they are there, because I'm sure their program and money is there on their accounts.
Yeah.
So if they can just help us in case of an emergency, we go, we treat our kids. Like in my case, I have a son who has chronic chest problem.
Yeah.
And I only had one doctor who was helping me. Now I'm wondering, where do I get a doctor who will help out my son so that this attack comes to an end? So these people should just be human at a point. They should see us as those, we don't become widows by choice.
Of course.
Yeah, because if you tell us that you are taking people there who are married for 3 months and you're taking them in front, they should know that they are leaving a young family behind them. And like when you take my father, you know, my father has served for 10 years or 20 years. He's okay, the family, we've gone to school. We have nothing, it's just mom and I. But us, we are everything.
What's your opinion on this? Because it is a tricky one. You know, there are some sincere and genuine needs on the part of the widows. Like we said, they have families. But on the other hand, you've got KDF. Is it their right to continue supporting widows throughout?
Believe you me, yes. And I want to say this as a Kenyan who has done her part in supporting them free of charge.
Right.
That it is their right to receive psychological support. Because once you become a military officer, the state owns you.
Yeah.
And you see the way we also bury the state's men and women. And these families, what I want to say is that they need more than what they have received. But I want to acknowledge some efforts that have been made by a few that I know. The first time I had an encounter with the returning soldiers from Somalia through the 12th Engineers Brigade, 248 of them. I decided to carry out an evidence-based assessment on depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. And I did that because I wanted to show them the reality. You know, when you do something in an evidence way, people believe.
Yes,
and I wrote a
facts,
proposal.
right.
It lies today in the Department of Defense.
Wow.
I did it when Julius Karangi was the man in command.
Yes.
Although later on he retired. And one time I told him on Facebook, so long as you did not act on my proposal, you're not my friend, but I was just joking.
Right.
But I have been doing it. I've been pushing it the best way. And I've always told them I'm on call 24/7. Like the Elade, I was in the USA when it happened. And it really touched me because I had gone to the USA just to find out what they do for the military officers. And I realized that the first time one of the KDF, one of the US military officers talked about the experiences of trauma during war and how it affects men and affects the families, America woke up. And I think it's time Kenya also wakes up, so that we can all do our little bit and support these families. You remember there's a time in Kenya we didn't have peace. But right now they are able to fight them from Somalia, not within the Kenyan borders. What am I doing as a Kenyan? And I really want to say congrats for NTV for bringing this reality to the people, so that those people who are posting those pictures aimlessly, thoughtlessly, they can't stop, because you are touching another family and torturing them more than they are receiving. I want to acknowledge the efforts of Major General Owino, because the first time we even had to use the church premises to raise money, 3 million, to set up a counseling center in Thika Engineers Brigade. And the other one that they have set aside in Kenya Military Academy, so that we start preparing the servicemen, even during training, about PTSD. Because some of them, even after they've gone and fought a good fight and come back, they still have demons to fight in the name of post-traumatic stress disorder from the combat. What about the families? They also suffer from vicarious trauma. Who helps them? Why I am saying it's a must. It is a must, and I'm saying this as a professional. If we want to maintain them in a healthy way, that they are able to also fend for their children, fend for their families, and support others, the professional counseling services are a must, and the counseling units, even one room is enough for a counselor. They did it outdoor, sure? It was out there. What about setting a small space for them in every military base?
How will you even access it?
Now, what has worried me is that fact that the gate pass is withdrawn immediately.
Exactly.
Some things needs to change. I know Kenya is the first time we have been attacked. You know, our sovereignty has been threatened, and we had to send KDF to Somalia. But that doesn't mean we have to stick to the rules that are not working for us. I think we need to be flexible. If it's about those gate passes, give them time to mourn. Give them time to separate from the familiar environment.
Don't withdraw straight away.
Sure.
And Dora, how, you know, it's interesting because we have a counsellor here who, of course, probably her view is that counselling is very important. We have Jessica here who has never received professional counselling, and you have. Can you just share with us, how did that counselling help you? You know, how often were you counselled, and how did it, you know, help you move on to an extent, or perhaps accept the situation?
Yeah, you know, when we received the information, when we went to Memorial to find out what had happened, we were crowding there. And you know, if you have grief in you, you cannot even hear anybody, any word from anybody. So I think they thought it's wise to group us in small groups in the name of, who was your husband? How, are you sure he was there? Yeah.
So it
so
was
that
not
they
a
can bring
one-on-one.
us together. It was always one-on-one.
Oh, it was one-on-one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really helped, because if you are cancelled today, tomorrow, you are told some people have been brought in. You go and check, you see your husband is not there. Then you're asking them, is there anybody in the morgue? They tell you they have not brought. And inside them, they know that people are there. So by the time they now realize that they had done the clearing at the front, now everybody was here. It's either you are missing. If you are not in the ward, you are in the morgue. If you're not in the morgue, you are nowhere to be found. Now they started talking to us in a suggesting way that things are not well. So the more they talk to you, what would you do in case you find out that he's dead? How is your reaction? What is it? I think it kept me strong, because by the end of 3 weeks, I told them, the way I know my husband, he could be home by now. But I've not seen him. I've accepted that he's dead. So the best thing you can do, just show us the bodies. It really helps somebody. It's very helped.
Yeah, all right. Dora was talking about how she benefited from the counselling that she received from the Kenya Defence Forces. We have Jessica here who never received professional counselling. Susan, you are a counsellor. Of course, various different people deal with grief in their own personal ways. It is extremely personal. There's no one right way to deal with it. But as a counsellor, how important do you think counselling is for someone who is suffering from the loss of a loved one?
Yeah, one thing I would like to appreciate is from her talk, I could tell she was actually handled by a professional counselor who prepared her up to the level, or he, whoever it was, to a level of accepting that my husband is dead and I'm ready to view his body. What we also need to know is that there are people who pose as professional counselors, but they are actually not trained in counseling, and they can actually harm more than do good to the people who are in grief. There is globally a process that everybody goes through, though it doesn't have to be like from 1 to 2, right? And there are 5 main stages that somebody who is grieving goes through. And like I had said earlier, referring to Jessica, there is that stage of the first time you get the news. There is the shock, there is the numbing, you know, like I am not feeling this world. It's like I belong elsewhere. But you're still there, and that is when it doesn't make sense. I'm very happy that for the few days you are being attended to by the counselors, they were working with you, even when you're in your own world and everybody else is living, and for you, you are feeling like you're also dead. There is a stage of anger. Why couldn't they protect them? Why couldn't, yeah, he was always a strong one, like the husband, you know? Why couldn't he be smart enough? There is anger. There is also anger towards God. Why my husband? The others who have survived. Why mine? Anger also towards the in-laws. For example, you're grieving and you hear the first thing they have gone to ask for is money. So there's a lot of anger that can accumulate. And this is what I'm saying for the families, to acknowledge that somebody is going through a painful moment. Give them that time. Sometimes it's just a natural process, because before counseling came to Kenya, because it just very new in the 70s, early 70s, before we were surviving and we still had somehow. But what counseling does, it makes the process faster. It makes the process, you know, you are empowered. You don't just come out of the pain, but you're also empowered. Like what Jessica is saying, that support group needs to be something that lasts for many years. That if it's a memory I have to keep about my husband, it's a memory that I am actually changing other lives through his memory. And that is a positive one. And she can find meaning. We do have the bargaining stage, you know, like it's not happening to me. These in-laws are going to come up and wake up. You know, like in Jessica's case, probably you're thinking they should withdraw the case from court. And now we go down to the table and discuss. Because I still have their son's son. I have their blood with me. You can continue bargaining. And once you are not able to bargain, it's just a safe place to be. You find yourself going to depression. And I'm glad that they haven't gotten there. From the look of things and the small assessment I've done, they haven't gotten to a level of giving up. I could see her in her small business. I'm sure, Jessica, you're doing that support group is not easy to coordinate. That means you still have some energy, right? So you have refused to sink into depression. And when one sinks into depression, they don't want to do anything. They lose interest in everything. They don't like people. They don't like things they used to do. And if you got there, probably you try to fight and get out.
Right. And do carry on.
Yes, and the last stage is the best stage to reach for everybody. We've all lost. I'm sure you've lost, and everybody else, although theirs is more complicated. When you accept, it doesn't mean the pain is gone. You have accepting that I'm in pain, and I have to deal with this pain. And for sure, nobody else can deal with that pain better than you. But when we say the services of a counselor, it makes it easier for you. There are things you don't want to voice even to yourself, but the counselor will listen to all these. We actually say we are just an open basket where you can pour in. We don't keep it. We are skilled. We know how to deal with it. And we are there with you as you walk. And that is where you're saying, the soldiers, don't blame them. Even the military officers, don't blame them. Some people don't know what to do with you. And the minute they have buried their loved one, because even them it's a loss. You have seen them weeping and all that. Because you're like, it could be me next. So they also have expectant grief. but they don't know what to do. That is where I'm saying the services of counseling should begin.
Well, all right, appreciated and respected that, you know, of course, counselling does help and make a difference, but then
Yes.
Jessica brought up an issue which I'm sure many people face, is the expense of counselling. Now, Dora, when you were counselled, was that all free services from the KDF?
Yeah,
And beyond that, did you seek any other private counselling?
I didn't, but I had spoken to the counselor who was counseling me when I was there. I told him I still have unanswered questions that I would love to just pick them out, so that maybe you can help me out. And then he said he will be available, but now I didn't find time, and you see, I don't want to go there because I see when I reach that place, I see fresh memories.
Of course.
Yeah, and I just kept off. Yeah.
Okay. And Jessica, you talked about, you know, it, of course, having an impact on your pocket. Did you think about seeking counselling? And if you did, do you know how much it would have potentially cost for a session? Or did you not get that far?
I've never gone that far.
Okay.
I just decided to grieve on my own and get over it on my own.
Okay.
So,
And all right, well, I do want to come back about that issue because I can imagine it's not easily accessible or affordable to many people.
Right.
But Susan, we were talking about the cost of counselling because, of course, it is very important, very useful for grieving people to seek counselling, but it's not always easily accessible or affordable. How much does a session cost? I'm sure it varies, but what's the cheapest, for example?
Well, the cheapest, when I talk about the cheapest, it's 1,500 an hour.
Wow.
That's the cheapest. And probably that's a degree holder in counseling psychology would charge you 1,500. And the minimum sessions you may need, especially for their case with complicated grief, could be 20 hours, 20
really?
sessions.
20 sessions?
This is it. That would be the minimum for them to get to a level you can say, now I leave you. The rest, you just go through it naturally. So where do they get that kind of money? And that is why I'm saying that America woke up when one of the veteran soldiers spoke. And it's not only the United States of America government that supports their own, even the corporate world. So it's a challenge to the corporate world at the moment. So many things that they do, so many good things. But I don't think we have given enough attention to our KDF family. And that is why I came up.
Yes,
I don't own any NGO.
I want to ask you, because earlier you mentioned that you offer free counselling services.
I run a consultancy.
Why do you do that?
Well, it's because the first time I was invited, I realized how heavy it was. And I said, this is not the end of my services. I want to continue. And I offered my center to be offering counseling services on call. And it's only the ones that call me that I'm able to go, because the military structure is also a bit kind of, it's not so, it's a bit rigid. And actually I say it's the goodwill of somebody who understands, like the Major General we know I'm telling you about. He understands the dynamics, and having had some exposure in the USA, he understands. And he says Kenya is actually better off. I did a benchmarking with UPDF in Uganda, and they told me, you guys are miles ahead.
Really?
Yes, because you are trying to offer psychological support for the families and even the soldiers. In Uganda, it's not there. My prayer is that it becomes a professional structure, because if money can be set aside, and I am glad, because right now, the one Major General Yumu has pushed, there is an establishment. And if today you go to Kenya Military Academy, you will see a clinical setting. And what I'm trying to do now is to support through clinical supervision, because I have my job at the university that I do on a daily basis, but I thank God they allow me to do this. There is a counseling center there, but that's KMA. We need another one in 75 Artillery, Kahawa, everywhere. I also know we have professionally trained soldiers. This is a time to relieve them of other duties and actually give them that work that they can do best. They don't have to be hidden. They don't have to hide also. I am urging them to come out, because I whispered and she told me for sure the male counselor that handled her is trained, But what is his job description when it comes to the Kenya Defence Forces job structure? And if they don't have enough, I am saying they can still train more. They can train more, and we are willing to offer them that support. But I'm also appealing to the corporate world. In America today, if you go to Orlando in Florida, you will find the state-of-the-art medical center. It has a whole unit on post-traumatic stress disorder, a whole unit for surgery, and a whole kind of an estate, a residence.
Really?
If today a soldier has an issue and lives in Turkana, and they have to bring their member all the way to Nairobi for medical services, where do they sleep? Where do they stay? That is why I'm saying that let's talk as a nation. What can Safaricom do? What can the insurance companies do? What can the professional body in Kenya for counselors do? I know we have offered some support, but it's minimal. That's how I ended up giving my center to give the support. What can we do? Actually, I have been pushed to a level of thinking, and I am registering a foundation for such kind of populations. Because in Kenya, we have been hit by very many disasters. But this one is unique.
Of course.
Let us accept as Kenya, we have never done this before.
Right.
So are we learning?
Of course.
Every day.
It's so interesting to hear, you know, where we stand in relation to other countries, our neighbors and, you know, countries like America.
tried.
But hats off to you for, you know, willing
They trained me as well.
to give your services free of charge.
And they trained me for free.
Oh, did they?
That is the Bridges of America. They trained me on a model that the soldiers, there's a way we can also empower the soldiers. When they go to the battlefront, how can I tell my colleague is developing PTSD?
Yeah.
Because he's going to be confused even as he goes to fight. And they do carry cards that give the symptoms. How can I tell that stress right now is overboard, such that he can be withdrawn and we can have somebody else coming on board? Because I try to think they are also learning. And one thing I appreciate is that where there is open communication, that they can share the challenges. And from the challenges, I really, really applaud our president. The visit he made does so much.
Yeah.
Even when I meet these soldiers, when they're coming back, they're like, you don't know what it is like.
Sure.
Don't waste our time. We want to go and connect with our families.
Yes.
But we tell them, we want you to connect with them in a healthy way. And then once we have done, actually a lot of what we do is debriefing, just to remove the mind from that battlefield to bring it back home. That's the best that we do.
I'm sure.
Meaning, we also need to have continuous counseling. And what we tell them, this is okay for you. There is no known hero world over in psychological torture. No one, even when you're a soldier. Because the mind, what it stores, it is the only one that knows how to deal with it. And somebody else has to help you. And don't forget the classical conditioning training of soldiers makes them actually very vulnerable to trauma.
Right, and I just want to bring in one point here that, you know, earlier I did mention that the feedback about last night's program, Widows Brigade, in which Jessica, you and Eudora featured in along with other brave women, really did receive overwhelming positive reaction. But there have been some negative responses. Some people arguing that by airing that feature, we are opening old wounds. We are now demoralizing soldiers who are on the front line, or families who have, you know, husbands, sons at the front line, who watched and now have perhaps a better insight into really what happens. Jessica, what's your view on that? Because you opted, of course, to share your story. So firstly, why did you share your story? And then what's your comment on the negative reaction?
The reason why I shared my story is because, I mean, there are many people out there, there are many KDF widows out there who are going through a lot. And as well, myself, I go through the same. But I think by sharing this, surely it's part of healing. Because a problem shared is a problem half solved.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sharing my story to the world out there, I mean, I want to encourage some other women to just know that, you know, you are not the only one who's going through this. We are many of us. And also, because, you know, we face a lot of challenges that we don't usually get a forum to share.
Yeah.
For example, the issue of counseling services that we don't get. There is nobody out there who knows that we don't get that.
Yeah.
People out there assume that we get full support.
Of course.
people out there think that KDF widows have a lot of money because they've been compensated, not knowing that there are many out there who've never even received their compensation till today.
Like you.
Yes, I haven't received, but I think we had family issues,
Right.
which I think the matter is in court and I'm yet to be compensated.
Yeah.
You can imagine also we have others who've lost money, because then you have soldiers who they join the KDF. That time they put their brothers or their parents as next of kins. But when now they get married, they don't update their files.
Right.
Yeah.
So you find that when he dies, the brother or the mother who was mentioned as the next of kin will always say, you know what, I'm the next of kin. So you have no share.
Yeah.
You see? So those are the kind of things that we wanted to bring to the limelight. Even legal representation. Let me tell you, there are a lot of KDF widows who are just housewives. So whenever a case like that where the family is fighting you, most of them cannot even afford legal representation. So they end up just giving up and losing everything to the family.
Yeah.
So, and that is also something that probably I wanted to bring to the limelight, that if the government can even form a legal team to provide to these widows free legal representation in court. Because then if you have to, lawyers, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
they can make, they will demand whatever kind of
course.
money from you, because they know the amount that you expect. So you are willing to pay as much to be able to get your compensation.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that probably just wanted to bring out there.
Sure. All right, back to our conversation. Dora, before we just took that moment to introduce the launch of the Business Daily, we were talking about why you ladies decided to share and open up about your stories, because it is extremely personal, extremely difficult to talk about, difficult for anybody really to understand. So what made you open up?
Okay, according to me, I found out that it's like a daily bread. Soldiers dying every day, it's like a daily meal that is happening in Kenya. So I wanted to give a cry for the ladies back at the village, the ladies who cannot access Nairobi, the ladies who don't know anything and they're affected. And the next thing that made me speak out my mind is when Jessica formed this WhatsApp group, I found out that we should get as many ladies that are widowed, so that we can come together and see how to take care of our kids. But you know, it's a group that we don't know others. Yeah, so maybe through this, people are going to get to know us better,
Yeah.
and they are getting to talk to us, and we are encouraging all the widows across to join so that we can form a very strong group. Then I wanted to pass a message to my president, His Excellency, because I wanted to talk to him personally, but I didn't find any place to find him. I thought the media would be the best place. If I can tell him that we are ladies, most of us are trained and they are not employed. Like myself, I'm a teacher and I'm not employed by the government. What is his view as a father of the nation? How can he help us to take care of our children? Can he find us some opportunities so that if I'm employed, I'll not follow up the KDF all the time that I need my husband to have served for 12 years so that I can be compensated. I think I can take care of my children. And I also wanted to tell the people in the military, the commanders, that we are the policymakers. We can still review their policies. Imagine somebody has served for 11.99 years and he's not compensated. It's just the same as that one who has served for 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, if they must stick to their policy, then let them be taking the people who have been in service for more than those years, so that even if they die, their families will still benefit and leave our young generation just alone. Another thing, I want them to have a counseling session for our husbands before they go. You know, they just pick people, today you are going. Yeah, they are paid. We all love money and we know money is everything to some people, but it's not. Because you're giving me money for 1 month and I'm no more.
Yeah.
Like my husband went there on 26th of December and he died on 15th. What has that money done?
Of course.
It hasn't helped me in any way.
Yeah.
You bet they have to cancel them so that they go there willingly. They prepare us as the women. They cancel us. We are taking your husbands to these places. So you be prepared for anything. He might come back or he might not come back. Another thing, these people are taking people in front. My husband told me personally that we are here, the vehicles are not in condition. You are given 3 gunshots. You have 3 and somebody has a whole armor.
Yeah.
What are they doing? If they have to send people, let them send people with equipment. You can't fight without anything. Yeah, at least they can do that. Or they can make them just be at the border to protect the country when they are at the border. It's not in, they are protecting Somali, not us. Who is protecting us? That is my question to the president. Who is protecting us? What are they taking? Where are we taking our children as widows? Yeah, because most of us, like Elade, we were more than 200 widows.
Really?
And maybe 10 of us only are the ones their husbands have served for 10 years or those 12 years that they're saying. So which means us here, we are not being compensated beyond the gratuity. And if I've served for 3 years, how much do you expect me to get? It's like maybe 100K. Sure. What is that when your father-in-law is there, your sister-in-law is there, and everybody is there? How is it going to help these kids? If they take the medical schemes or the education covers for our kids, mandatory in all military camps, that if you join the camp, you have to pay for your child's education for a certain period of time. Then, when you are gone, your child will benefit. I'm just wondering that Helen, she's still expecting a child, and now the father-in-law has taken everything. So how will that child survive? If it were wise that his husband had maybe paid for medical covers for the kids, whether born or unborn, so that when she is born, at least they will just pay straight. Because you can pay me that maybe 10 million today, and who knows if I can just spend it in my own way. Then my child is growing up, and when time comes for him to go to school, there is no money for education. Please, they have to review that.
Certainly. And, you know, Susan, I mean, the fact that people like Jessica, Dora, and all the others that featured on the show have shared their story really gives people an insight into what happens, you know, before, during, and after. It is very, very shocking and striking. The issues really are deeper. It isn't just a woman grieving the loss of her husband. There's so much more. But what then do you make of the people who are criticizing us for airing this by saying that we're now opening deeper wounds, and what we're doing by exposing the stories is not good, perhaps for the ladies or for other ladies, and also possibly demoralizing other men out there? What's your opinion?
Well, I want to say it's a normal society, because when they criticize, they're just being normal. But I want to take a case of Rwanda. I call Rwanda my second home. Rwanda lives not in any denial. They put open what happened in 1994, and that is their own country. But they are growing faster than us. They have more peace and more security than us. I know when they talk about scaring the other officers, one thing, because I have interacted with these military officers, they're actually not cowards. For sure, when they go to war, they know it's either I come back alive or dead. So there is nothing like scaring them. That is what exists in people's minds. And we call it identification. You're imagining you're the one. When I told you people don't know how to handle the cases of loss and grief, especially when it comes to military officers, widows, it is true. It's just that lack of information. They are in ignorance, because when they are talking and they are saying, right now they are not shedding tears. But when I want to imagine the first time you got the news, it wasn't even like you're leaving. So the sharing helps them. And what we don't need to deny as a nation today is that things have changed, that there's a lot that has changed. And I'm appreciating the efforts that are already in place by the military, because I have been part and parcel of some of the positive changes. What I want to tell Kenyans is that, to me, this is positive, How many of them have died out of depression and out of depression-related illnesses like high blood pressure? You know, some of them could be have taken their own lives because nobody is helping them to talk out. For me, as a counseling psychologist, talking out is good. But when they talk out, I don't know what that other person perceives that to be. But I doubt that the military is taking it negatively because we have walked steps. Initially, it looked as if that is what it is. But I believe somebody who shares is a bold person. A nation that shares what it's going through is bold. The president going to Somalia and facing them in their own environment where they are fighting. That was the best thing that could ever have happened. It should have happened like yesterday. What he left there is amazing. And these boys are not scared. For your information, I have met them when they are just about to graduate, they are not scared. And whoever joins the forces is already decided. And in the military, there is nothing like saying, I am willing or I'm not willing. Because you cannot categorize, these are the people to go to the war front and these are the people not to go. And they actually go the old and the young. What Dora is expressing is the Kenyans who are ignorant. That they are thinking it's the young people being taken to die. That's not what it is. Because I believe there are very good benefits of being in the military. And for sure, when it comes to death, nobody knows when they're going to die.
So true. And you know, you say that these young men, young or old, because the military is full of all sorts, aren't scared. They are indeed very, very courageous men. But you know what I think? I'd like to, I mean, just briefly, as before we wind up, give us an insight, Jessica, into your husband. What was he like? You know, did he love his job? What was your relationship like? And what were some of perhaps your fondest memories of him?
I would say my husband was one very loving person, and what I would say is that guy loved me. First sight, when I look at my picture at that time, I wouldn't think that anyone could love me at that time, but he just loved me that way, and he's been very supportive. Actually, I met my husband when I had just completed Form 4. But he supported me all the way. I did my bachelor's degree. I went to London to do my master's. And he took care of our son. I mean, he's that person who wanted me to go out there, to empower me to be somebody. So he worked with me all through this journey till today. What I am today, I owe it all to my husband. My husband loved his son. They're very good friends. I'm telling you, my son still talks about him.
And how is your son? You know, so much of the focus has been on the ladies, of course, but how is your boy doing?
I think my boy is good. Right now, he's accepted that his dad is no more. He's not going to come back because I think he experienced it all from memorial morgue to burial. He's let it go, but the memories that he still has about his dad, he talks about him every time. And my son looks like his dad, so he took after his dad almost everything. And I'm glad he did, because whenever I look at my son, I look at him. My husband was full of surprises. Sometimes we could quarrel in the house. I go to work and he follows me to work to bring me flowers. So sorry.
How sweet.
So those are the kind of memories that I really, really remember about my husband. And I mean, he was my first love, and it's been really very hard. And I don't know, it will be very hard for me to move on, given that he was my first love, and somebody who just loved me the way I was, and he made me what I am today. So,
well, you are an incredible woman, and if you owe it to him, then hats off to him. What a good man you had. And Dora, what about you? Give us an insight into the love of your life and maybe some of your fondest memories.
Okay, I can say my husband was a man who was committed to his work, because being the only electrician in that full platoon, he loved his work. He really wanted to perfect there, so that when he says, I'm home with my family, he's home. Whenever he was given leave, we could just stay together in the house. I go to work, I come back, he's just there, waiting for us. He never loved to be prepared the meal by a house help.
Yeah.
So I miss those moments where I could prepare my best for him, because I could come home, I'm very tired, but when I just look at him there, I go straight to my kitchen and start preparing food. But now you can come and even sleep on a couch.
Yeah.
Because there is nobody to follow you up.
Yeah.
And he also loved us. He could talk, like before he died, he talked with his son who was by then 3 years. They talked for like 2 hours, talking nothing. He just said, let's talk
Boy
nothing.
talk.
Yeah,
Man
so
talk.
that I can just feel like
Yeah.
I'm there, I'm fathering him. Yeah. So I really miss him because he was loved by everybody at home and wherever. They had nicknamed him a very funny name like Hainga. Now, Hainga in our language is a tough person whom you cannot joke with him anyhow. But whenever he wants to be happy, he's very happy. He loved everybody. They could quarrel with the dad. Just a few minutes, he comes there and he tells you, let's go and bring something for my dad. We go and just bring him anything or we just sit together. He tells him, let's go and have a walk. Yeah. I really miss him most of the time.
And how is your son doing now? How old is he?
Now he's just turned 4 years, and by then he really wanted to talk to him because it was like a routine. When I'm out of the house, he calls the house help. In the evening, I'm there, he calls. Now, he was asking me, why is it that Daddy is not calling me? Give me the phone. So I was giving him the phone, making calls, and they were not going through. So I just told him, Dad is no more. He died. Because I felt like when I tell him he traveled, he must come back.
Sure.
I told him, your daddy died, and he will not come. When somebody dies, he goes under the ground and he will never come back. So when we went home, he was busy doing his issues, but we took that clip. So when we came, I always showed him that clip so that he can accept. So when he went to school, one day he told the teacher, you know, this is a photo that they took when they were doing the last guard of honor. The way he was seeing people shooting. See, this is how they shot my dad. And he went under the ground and he died. So at least he has accepted by seeing that movie.
Right.
I'm very sure when he grows up and what I'm doing, I'm just investing because of him. So that he will know that really mom struggled. Because he will tell me, yes, you say dad died, this was his death. What did you do?
Sure.
Which step did you take?
Yeah. Did you want to add something when Dora talked about cooking?
No, I just there's one thing I forgot about my husband.
Yeah.
My husband was one person who loved his job. I mean, he was at first he was an artillery guy, but when he was posted to go to helicopter training school, my husband, I think, was the best pilot in 5th Air Cavalry Battalion. In fact, he had grown his career. Because before he died, he just came from South Africa as an instructor, helicopter instructor.
Wow.
So he came in May, he stayed in Kenya for 2 weeks and went to Somalia and never came back. So between 2013 and when he died, because I went to London in 2013, I came in 2014 December. In January 2015, he left for South Africa. He came in May 2 weeks and he left for good. So between 2013 and 2015 when he died, I think we were barely together for a month.
Yeah.
So it was that person who was so focused about his career.
His work,
He was a major at 33 years. He was a helicopter instructor at 33. So you would imagine.
Wow, what amazing men.
I think nowadays, according to my point of view, is that these soldiers are really supporting us. Because I'm also doing my degree. And they really want you to do something because they know they are either on earth or in heaven. So in case they go, they leave a woman who is empowered. The soldiers were talking to me and telling me that how I wish I could have empowered my woman the way your man did to you.
Wow.
Then I gave him thumbs up.
Yeah,
I just
awesome.
said, "Good."
Absolute thumbs up to your husbands and all the men out there on the front line. And we've got to bring this conversation to a close, but very briefly, Susan, how can people access you to get your help? For example, Jessica may now feel that, hey, I'd like to, you know, listen to Susan, or have Susan listen to me, or Dora as well, and all the other women out there who are watching. How can anybody get hold of you?
Well, one thing I appreciate is that I have met the two of them, so immediately they have my contact.
Great.
And I am with Heroes Oasis as well. They can get me also on Facebook. I'm just Susan Gitau. You'll find my picture there, just the way I am.
Okay.
Even on Twitter, I am Susan Wambui Git1. You can also find me on the same. And if somebody is really in need, I can give my number.
Okay.
It's 0722 218 447. For the KDF widows, not for anybody else.
All right, so don't bombard
and
Susan.
probably what I want to say is that we are planning a family get-together at Kenya Military Academy. If we have well-wishers out there and they want to join us, they can actually directly get in touch with the Kenya Military Academy commander, who is also the West Region commander, George General Owino. He is a good man, he listens, and he's trying to do the best. And actually on behalf of the military, I believe there's goodwill even from the national government.
Super. And Jessica, you do have a support group that includes Dora and a few others. How can any women watching or anyone watching, can they contact you or be part of that group? How does that work?
Yes, they can get me on Facebook on Jessica Jepkosgei Kiplagat, and on Twitter as well, jessica.kiplagat. And also they can reach me on my mobile.
Okay. Well, let them first perhaps reach you through social media, and then you can communicate with them.
Yeah, there's one last thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
Is just to commend the CES Gender. He's been very supportive, by the way, because during last year's International Widows Day, I got a chance to give a speech.
Okay.
And at that time, I'd requested just for a dinner for the widows of the KDF, because then fighting Al-Shabaab is more or less like fighting colonialism. It's like fighting freedom from Al-Shabaab.
Sure.
So while those people who fought for independence in this country, I think they are still recognized till today. Their families are still being recognized.
Yeah, true.
And I would think that our husbands still fall in the same, because they die in war. They die protecting this nation. They never get a chance to go to State House. I remember athletes, when they go out there and they bring gold, they're invited in State House to dine with the president. But our husbands never get that chance. Now that our husbands never got the chance, can the widows also get that chance?
Most definitely.
Especially with the
Yes.
First Lady.
Exactly.
Or even the First Lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we requested the CES at that time, I think she allocated 1.2 million for us to just do a dinner.
Yeah.
And I think that is very positive.
A step in the right direction,
Yes.
no doubt.
So that's something that is going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for her confirmation, and that's really commendable. And I hope that other ministries, like even Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Internal Security, can do the same.
All right. Well, let's certainly hope that through this forum and through the feature Widows Brigade, somebody has heard you. No doubt, so many people have heard your stories. So moving, and thank you all so very much for joining us. Dora, Jessica, and all the other widows, you really are clearly empowered women, and your husbands would be so proud of you. And just take faith that they are looking over you, guarding you, guiding you, and feeling very proud of you for the women you have become. Thank you for sharing your story, much appreciated. And we certainly wish you all the very best. And Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Your insights have been particularly useful, not only to myself, Dora and Jessica, but to everybody watching.